Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're taking a look at some interesting trends as we get closer and closer to Nationals. The NAWCQ in Indianapolis is only about a month and a half away, and players are already looking ahead and testing for the format. Of course, things are going to look a bit different as we will have both Duelist Advance and the new Battles of Legends set legal for the event. But I think players are aware and have been testing with a lot of those newer cards in mind. Even beyond that though, Justice Hunters is literally just a month after, and that's going to be another game-changing set. And so we are seeing buyouts all across the market as players get ready for different events. Let's get started. Kicking things off, we have Salesban. So this is a card that's actually been seeing a little bit of play on and off for the last couple of months or so. You declare any card name, and then your opponent can't use that card or its effects for the rest of the turn, but then you can't activate that card or its effects for the rest of the duel. Now this is something that has seen a bit of casual play in the past, with players using this to call Nibiru and protect themselves from Nib. Now it seems that players are using it for a couple of different things. One is Droll and Lockbird, which has become an extremely popular hand trap this format. Of course, your opponent has to wait until you've searched something before they're able to drop Droll and Lockbird, and with how much searching you do in a deck like Mitsurugi Raziel, using Salesban and calling Droll and Lockbird is a really strong way to help ensure that your key combo pieces, such as Saji or Duo Drive, are able to resolve. The other thing we've seen this for, I believe, is Raziel Detonator, where you basically get rid of all of your opponent's pops just for the one turn, which makes breaking their board much easier. Salesban was originally a secret rare in Battles of Chaos. These used to be really cheap since no one used the card before. It spiked up to around $10 a couple of months ago, and now actually sits just under $20 per copy, as this is the highest rarity version. It fortunately did get a reprint in the tins from its year as a super rare, and while those were basically 25 cents before, they're now actually a solid $4 to $5 each. Overall, I would definitely recommend picking up a playset of this card just so that you have the option to run it in your side deck. It definitely does seem like it has the potential to be a really strong tech card depending on the format. Up next, we have a pretty funny one. It's Amazon of the Seas. So this card is a vanilla level 4 fish water monster, and apparently this is something that's seeing play in Mermail Atlantean decks. Now with the banning of both Abyss Dweller and Bahamut Shark, water strategies are looking for a new rank 4 water monster to play so that they can detach Atlantean Dragoons and trigger its effect. At first, players were looking at running Snowdust Giant, which detached a material from itself to basically do nothing. Now, however, it seems that players are switching over and running the Magic Key Xyz monster Vipartu, which allows you to detach a material from it to search for a normal monster. So people are searching for Amazon of the Seas because it can then be discarded for the cost of something like your Abyss Pike or your Abyss Teus. So I believe they're running this over something bigger, specifically because it has to have 1500 or less attack points, just in case you need to revive it with Marincess Coral Anemone. Also, I think technically Yugioh might be a better option since it has 1350 attack points, but Amazon of the Seas has more defense points, and it has a girl on it, so of course Yu-Gi-Oh players are going to go for that. Now oddly enough, Amazon of the Seas has two different printings here in the TCG, but both of them were actually from tournament exclusive packs. I believe Champion Pack and then an Astral Pack. Technically, as of when I'm making this, the Astral Pack version has completely sold out, but based on these sold listings, either version is moving for around $5 each. Definitely an interesting one to make note of, though if you aren't interested in playing Mermail, you might want to try and dig these up out of your bulk and dump them while they are seeing a little bit of hype. Okay, now this is a really cool one. We have Duration, the Cursed Thunder God. This card is a generic level 11 synchro monster with two really strong effects. The first is that if your opponent activates a card or effect, you gain 300 life points when each one resolves. This means that this is something that could win you the game in time. Its other effect allows you to pay 1500 life points and tribute it, then either destroy all of your opponent's face-up monsters or all of their face-up spells and traps. Definitely a cool option. Depending on the matchup, you can make this card to threaten a board wipe, or just let it sit there and make your opponent give you life points just for playing the game. Now when Alliance Insight first dropped, this card was actually pretty overlooked, as you could get the Ultras for only $1 or so, and even the QCRs were down at like 25 to 30, which is pretty cheap for a QCR from a recent set. However, it seems that players are turning a bunch of attention to this card. As a relatively new one, it shouldn't get reprinted anytime soon, even though it has a lot of potential, but also it's starting to pop up as a tech option in some lists that players have been running online with access to different tuners. Now, as a result, the QCR printing is up to around $50 to $60, and then even the Ultras are up a few bucks and now sit at $4 each. I think a big part of it is also that Alliance Insight is a pretty underwhelming set in terms of value, so with not as many players cracking the set open, it's gradually getting harder and harder to find someone to buy the singles off of. That said, while it is only $4, this is a card that I'd probably recommend grabbing a copy or two of while it's still relatively cheap, because it's definitely something I could see being a solid extra deck option in the future. On to the next one, we have Gateway to Chaos. So this is a pretty interesting field spell. It's something that did see play back in Spiral format, but has the potential to see play once again. So back then, Spiral used set rotation in order to access Spiral Resort, but they had to give the opponent a field spell as well with a different name. So you would give your opponent a copy of Gateway to Chaos, and they couldn't activate it since its on activation search effect is mandatory. So this effectively locked your opponent out of activating a field spell completely. Now, going into this upcoming format, I believe that Yummy, Malice, and Vanquish Soul are all expected to be top tier decks that use field spells, so players might be looking to add Gateway to Chaos and set rotation into their strategies. Now, the other thing here is that Gateway to Chaos adds either a Gaia the Fierce Night monster or a BLS ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and some players are using this to search for a BLS monster so that they can more easily make Dragon Master Magia, which is a bit troll, but I guess it is just a for fun deck, maybe for locals. Anyways, Gateway to Chaos has just two different printings. This was originally a super rare in Dimension of Chaos, and then it got a secret rare reprint in Shadows in Valhalla. With this one, based off of the sold listings, either printing is going to cost you around $5 to $6 at the moment, though there's barely any super rare copies on TCG Player at the time I'm making this. Ultimately though, I don't think that this is something that's gonna end up seeing that much play, especially as long as set rotation is at 1, and I don't really see it peeling off the list anytime soon, so this is probably something I would look to offload while it's seeing a crazy hyped up price. The next card that we have here is Evil Swarm Oraboros. So Oraboros is a generic rank 4 Xyz monster that requires 3 level 4 monsters to make, and it has a soft once per turn effect where you detach a material from it to either bounce an opponent's card from the field back to the hand, rip a card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, or banish a card from their graveyard. Of course, it is the hand rip effect that has caused this card to get so much attention, and it's something that has been somewhat popular. Originally, players were looking at this as part of the Heraldic Beast variant of Ryziel, since that version was the best at making a ton of rank 4 monsters, so they could actually make like 2 copies of this card and revive one with Eclipse Twins and rip 3 cards out of your opponent's opening hand. However, it seems now that we're actually seeing Mitsurugi Ryziel builds starting to incorporate this in the extra deck as well, though typically just at 1. I think that generally, assuming that you don't get Mulcharmied, Ryziel is still able to eat 1 or 2 hand traps and then make this card and rip a card out of the opponent's hand. So when you're also ending with a Murakumo, your opponent basically only gets to play their turn with 2 to 3 cards in their opening hand, which is probably setting you up to win. Now that said, Oraboros was reprinted in Crossover Breakers itself, so it's not a difficult card to find if you just want to play it. You can get a rare or super rare copy, and the card does also have a gold rare printing as well. However, its original printings have continued to trend upwards in price over the last while. This card sort of has 2 original printings since it was a DT card first technically. They were at $25 to $30, but they're now up to $40 each. And then with the Secrets from Hidden Arsenal 7, they were at $10, but they're now up to $15 to $20 a copy. Definitely something that's worth paying attention to. Personally, I had a few of these higher rarity versions. I offloaded these and I'm just okay with playing the super rares for now, but play whichever version you feel comfortable with. Here's an interesting one. We have Ally of Justice Quarantine. So this card is a level 4 monster with 1700 attack points and a very straightforward effect. While it's on the field, neither player can special summon light monsters. So this is something that players have talked about using in the past, but it's generally never been all that great. This card is actually pretty easy to run over with only 1700 attack points, and you also have to give up your normal summon for it most of the time, so it's kind of hard to do anything else during your turn. However, it seems that Quarantine is starting to see a bit of side deck play over in the OCG. This card is something that can be sided against Yummy, as it shuts off a lot of their extra deck monsters from bringing bodies back to the field, and also their monsters are relatively low levels, so it's harder for them to run over Quarantine as well. Now, in a deck like Vanquish Soul, this card can be really strong if you don't need your normal summon to get a Vanquish Soul monster to stick onto the board, and it's also a dark that you can reveal for your Vanquish Soul effects as well. Just remember that in the game today, we do have cards like Impermanence and Droplet, so it might be difficult to actually justify allocating multiple side deck slots to a card like this. Now with this card, we haven't seen much in terms of actual price movement on the market. This card was reprinted in Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1, so its common and DT common printings and the super rare from Hidden Arsenal are actually all dirt cheap. The one version that is worth keeping an eye on that has a lot more potential is the original DT printing. We haven't seen any sold listings for higher than a couple of dollars, but it seems that everyone has pulled their listings off of TCG Player because the cheapest ones as of the time I'm filming this are like $20 each. Just a card to keep an eye on moving forward. Make sure that you at least pick up a set of like the supers or whichever version you want to play with so that you have the option of using them down the road. And finally, the last card we have here is Junk Warrior. Specifically, however, we're taking a look at the QCR alternate art version from Maze of Millennia. So Junk Warrior itself is a pretty useless card. It has a really simple stat boosting effect, and that's kind of it. However, we are actually getting a new structure deck in the OCG in September, and the cards are actually based around the Junk cards, so everyone is sort of assuming that you're going to need to play Junk Warrior, whether that's revealing it in your extra deck or climbing into it as a bridge piece in order to access a better boss monster, who knows. Anyways, of course, Junk Warrior has a ton of different printings, and it will be 99% likely to be in the structure deck itself when it's brought over here. However, this leads people to just buying out the alternate art version, which is currently only available as a QCR. This card was actually pretty cheap. It used to be like a $20 card or so. I believe that at its low, it was like a $12 to $15 card. However, with this news, the card has seen a huge spike in price. The highest that it has sold for on TCG Player as of when I'm filming this is $40. They're mostly sold around the $30 to $35 range, even though technically right now the cheapest one available from a verified seller is at $50. With this one, I definitely expect the price to cool down, but really we're just appealing to the collectors and that sort of player more. I think a big thing is if we're going to see cards like this get reprinted in lower rarities so that the alt art version is more accessible and not locked behind a QCR wall, that would help to bring the price down a lot. Sort of like how we got the alternate arts of IP Masquerena and Nightmare Unicorn in Rarity Collection. I hope that a bunch of these other alt arts are going to get cheaper printings too. But for now, this is probably something you're going to want to dump because if the new support is revealed and it doesn't really need to use this card, the demand for this card will basically disappear and it'll be extremely difficult to move, even if it does take a while for quantities to be relisted back onto the market. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. Definitely an interesting one. It's always really fun to see these random cards, super unexpected ones like Amazon of the Seas or Junk Warrior trending on the market because they're actually potentially going to see play or have seen play in a meta deck just out of nowhere. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch episode, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.